The galaxy was quiet, too quiet. Out beyond the safe trade routes, far from the bright centers of power, a small colony struggled to survive. It was a human settlement, new and fragile, built on a distant planet where the ground was dry and the nights were colder than ice. The people there had no great armies, no strong defenses, and no allies nearby. They had only hope. On the night it began, the stars above the colony flickered in strange colors. The settlers thought it was nothing, just the sky playing tricks. But then came the sound. At first it was faint, like thunder rolling across the mountains. Then the shadows appeared, blotting out the moons. Alien warships broke through the clouds. Their hulls were black, sharp, and cruel, like blades of metal. The attackers were a race known only in whispers, a race that believed strength was the only law. They saw the little colony as prey, weak and helpless, and they came with fire. Panic spread across the settlement. Families ran into the bunkers. Alarms screamed, and the night filled with the red glow of burning fields. The colony's defense cannons fired once, twice, but they were old and small. The alien fleet tore them apart within minutes. The people inside the settlement realized the truth. They would not survive. Inside the command station, a single operator sat frozen before the console. His name was Kale. He was not a soldier, not a hero. He was just a man who had been trained to monitor signals. His hands trembled as the alien warships circled above. He could hear the screams through the comms, the sound of destruction spreading closer. Someone shouted behind him, "Send the distress call." "Now!" Kyle stared at the console. He knew the distance. Earth was far, too far. Even if they heard the signal, the colony would be gone before any help arrived. The alien fleet could crush them within hours. Still, his fingers moved. He typed in the sequence, his voice breaking as he pressed the transmitter. "Colony EOS 9, under attack. We are falling. Please, anyone, help us." The signal left the planet, a small burst of energy pushing into the endless dark of space. To the people huddled in fear, it felt meaningless. A whisper thrown into a storm. The aliens laughed. Through the comms, their voices were cold and cruel. "No one will come for you. You are nothing." Kyle kept the signal running, repeating every cycle. Even as the power grids failed, even as the floor shook beneath him, he sent it again and again. Not because he believed help would arrive, but because it was all he could do. Far away, on the other side of the galaxy, the signal was caught by a deep space listening post. The operators there almost missed it. At first it sounded like static, just another fragment of noise. But when they cleared the transmission, the words became clear. "We are falling. Please, anyone, help us." The operators froze. They played it again. Then they sent it up the chain to Earth. Within hours, the distress call reached the highest councils of humanity. Generals listened, scientists listened, even leaders who had promised peace listened. The sound of a single colony begging for survival spread across every channel. For a moment, silence filled the room. No one spoke. Then one voice said, "We cannot ignore this." On the colony, the night dragged on. The aliens moved through the streets, destroying everything. Fires raged. Families wept. Gale sat in the dark command post, the console burning hot under his hands. He did not know if anyone had heard. He did not know if he had been speaking to empty space, but above the planet, beyond the reach of the enemy, the signal still traveled. It carried the weight of fear, of hope, of desperation. And somewhere in the endless dark, Earth had already heard it. For the galaxy, it was just one cry, a small noise lost among billions of stars. But for humanity, it was enough. The signal reached Earth like a ghost's whisper. It was carried across satellites, bounced through relays, and finally arrived at the central command hub orbiting above the planet. There, in the silence of the station, a group of tired operators leaned over their consoles and listened. At first, it was just a crackle, static, nothing important. But then came the voice, broken, desperate, and raw with fear. "Colony EOS 9, under attack. We are falling. Please, anyone, help us." The words repeated over and over, fading in and out. The operators stared at one another, unsure. Out on the edges of the galaxy, colonies often struggled. Some were lost to famine, others to failure. But this was war. They sent the recording to Earth immediately. In less than an hour, the leaders of humanity gathered. Generals, admirals, counselors, and scientists filled the chamber. The great screen lit up, replaying the call again and again. Each time the room grew heavier. Some leaned forward, fists tight on the table. Others turned their faces away, unable to listen again. "They are too far," one counselor said at last. "By the time we send help, the colony will already be gone. We cannot risk our fleets." Another shook her head. "It is only one colony. We must think of the billions still safe here at home." Voices rose. The chamber became a storm of argument. Fear pressed down on them all. The galaxy was dangerous, and enemies were everywhere. Could humanity afford to strike back for just one settlement? But then a general, old and scarred from battles long past, stood up. His voice cut through the noise. "You all forget what it means to be human. One cry for help is enough. If we turn our backs on them, then we are no better than the monsters that attacked them." The room fell into silence. His words echoed in the council chamber, and one by one, heads began to nod. Admiral Yara, commander of Earth's First Fleet, rose slowly. Her eyes were hard, but there was fire in them. "Prepare the ships. If they want war, then we will bring it to them." Orders went out across the planet. From hidden hangars deep in the mountains, from massive shipyards floating above the seas, warships came to life. Engines roared, lights flickered, weapons hummed with power. Soldiers filled the barracks, their voices low but steady. They had all heard the call. They knew what was at stake. Some whispered to each other as they put on their armor. "Do you think we can save them?" "It doesn't matter." They called. "That's enough." The fleet gathered above Earth, hundreds of ships lined like an iron wall against the stars. The people of Earth looked up that night and saw the sky burning with engines of war. Fear mixed with pride. For the first time in years, they felt united. News spread fast, carried across every channel, every colony, every home. One cry for help had moved the whole of humanity. Families spoke about it in whispers. Children listened wide-eyed, and soldiers' names were already being remembered. The galaxy was not watching yet. The enemy still laughed, believing the colony would soon be ashes. They thought humanity was weak, too young, too divided. But deep in the cold silence of space, Earth's wrath was awakening. Admiral Yara stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Valiant. Around her, officers worked at their stations, preparing for the long jump across the stars. She looked at the screen one last time. The colony's broken signal still played, the voice of Kale repeating again and again. Her jaw tightened. "Plot the course," she ordered. "We answer the call." The engines of the fleet roared to life. One by one, the massive warships vanished into the dark, leaping across space. For the people of the colony, there was no sign yet that anyone had heard them. Their world still burned, their skies still filled with enemy ships. But far away, faster than light itself, a storm was coming, and for the first time in the galaxy's history, another species was about to learn what it meant when humanity decided to fight. The colony of EOS 9 had grown silent. Fires still burned, but the voices of the people were fewer now. The aliens had taken the streets, moving like shadows with weapons that hissed and burned through metal. Their commanders stood on high ground, laughing at the ruins they had created. They thought it was finished. They thought no one would come. Kyle, still alive in the broken command post, did not know how many hours had passed. His voice was raw from repeating the same message. The console blinked weakly, its power almost gone. In his heart he felt the truth. This was the end. But then the sky changed. At first it was only a flicker, a shimmer in the clouds. The aliens looked up, confused. Their ships circled nervously, scanning the heavens. Something enormous was coming. The air itself seemed to tremble, and then they appeared. Human warships tore out of the dark like giants of steel. They did not slip quietly into orbit. They arrived with thunder. The lead vessel, the Valiant, shone like a blade of silver fire, its engines roaring against the night. Behind it came dozens more. their hulls lined with weapons that glowed red-hot. The aliens froze. For the first time, their laughter stopped. The colony's people looked up from their hiding places, their eyes wide with disbelief. They had expected silence, expected to die alone. Instead, the sky was filled with Earth's fury. On the Valiant's bridge, Admiral Yara stood tall. She did not give a speech. She did not waste words. Her voice was steady, cold. Target the enemy fleet. Strike now! The order carried across the human armada. In an instant, Earth's warships lit up the sky. Missiles streaked downward, beams of plasma cut through the clouds, and the alien ships exploded one after another. The enemy panicked. They had never seen such force. They fired back, but their weapons bounced harmlessly against human shields. For every human ship they struck, 10 more answered. On the ground, Kyle stumbled outside, eyes wide as the night became fire. He saw alien ships crashing into the mountains, burning wrecks lighting up the horizon. He saw soldiers, human soldiers, dropping from orbit in armored pods, landing with thunder as they joined the fight. The aliens tried to regroup, but humanity was merciless. They had come across the stars not just to rescue, but to punish. One alien commander screamed over the comms, "It is impossible! They should not be here. They should not have come." But they had, and they brought with them the wrath of an entire world. The colony's people watched in awe. For every cry of fear that had left their lips, humanity now answered with fire. It was not just rescue, it was vengeance. On the battlefield, soldiers in steel armor moved like shadows, coordinated and relentless. Their weapons sang with deadly precision. Every step forward pushed the enemy back. A child hiding in the ruins whispered to her mother, "They heard us. Earth heard us." Above them, the fleet continued its assault. Whole squadrons of alien ships broke apart, their wreckage raining down in flames. The once proud invaders who had mocked humanity were reduced to fragments of smoke and shattered metal. Admiral Yara gave only one command again and again. "Do not stop. Do not leave one alive." Her officers obeyed. Her soldiers obeyed. And the aliens began to understand they had made one mistake. They had thought humanity was weak. They had thought one colony would be left to die, but a single distress call had been enough. The wrath of Earth had arrived. The colony shook with thunder. Human ships still rained fire from above, and on the ground, armored pods burst open with soldiers ready for war. They moved like steel shadows, human warriors in battle suits, their armor glowing with blue lights, their weapons humming with deadly energy. Each step they took pushed the enemy back. The aliens were not prepared. They had come to burn a weak colony, not to face Earth's full strength. Their ranks broke as humanity advanced. Kyle, standing in the ruins of the command post, watched in disbelief. Only hours ago he thought all was lost. Now he saw human soldiers charging through fire, unstoppable, their banners shining on their shoulders. The colony's survivors cheered through their tears. The battle became a storm. Alien war beasts roared through the streets, massive creatures armored in dark plates. But humanity met them with machines of their own. Tanks that glided silently on energy fields, drones that struck like hawks from the sky. The clash shook the ground. Admiral Yara's voice came through every comm. "Push forward. Leave none standing." Her words were not cruel, they were absolute. Humanity had not come just to defend, but to show the galaxy what happened when Earth's people were threatened. An alien commander screamed orders, but his soldiers hesitated. They had never seen such coordination, such fire. Humans fought like they were one mind, one will, bound together by a promise. No cry for help would ever go unanswered. A squad of soldiers broke into a burning shelter, pulling out trapped colonists. One soldier handed a child to her mother and whispered, "You are safe now. Earth heard you." Then he turned back to the fight without another word. In the skies above, the battle was worse for the enemy. Human warships moved with terrifying precision. When alien fleets tried to regroup, they were torn apart by plasma cannons. When they fled, missiles hunted them down across the void. The once dark night of the colony now glowed with fire. Ships exploded like dying stars. The sky was no longer theirs. It belonged to humanity. Kale fell to his knees, overcome with shock. His simple signal, his desperate cry had brought this storm. He whispered to himself, "We are not alone. Not anymore." The aliens tried one last stand. They gathered their strongest warriors, massive figures in jagged armor, their weapons sharp enough to cut through stone. They charged at the humans with a roar, but humanity did not flinch. The soldiers raised their rifles, and with one voice they answered with fire. The alien line shattered. The colony streets became silent except for the hum of human machines. Smoke rose into the sky. Fires burned, but the fear was gone. Admiral Yara stood on the bridge of the Valiant, her eyes on the battlefield below. She said nothing for a long time. Around her, her crew watched the victory unfold, but their faces were grim. They knew what this meant. The galaxy would not forget this day. A single cry for help had awoken the full fury of Earth. And now every species would know humanity was not weak, not distant, not silent. Humanity would rise for even the smallest voice. And when they rose, nothing could stop them. The battlefield grew quiet. Smoke drifted through the broken streets, and the fires slowly burned themselves out. The colony of EOS 9 still stood, scarred but alive. Where screams had once filled the night, now there was only silence, and the steady march of human soldiers. Kyle sat among the ruins, his body shaking, his face covered in ash. Hours ago, he had thought the signal would vanish into the void. But now, before his eyes, he saw Earth's armies standing victorious. He whispered to himself, "They came. They truly came." Families crawled out of the bunkers. Children clung to their parents, staring up at the sky where Earth's fleet hovered like a wall of fire. Soldiers lifted the wounded, gave food, shared water, and set up shelters. Humanity had not only come to fight, they had come to protect. Above the colony, aboard the Valiant, Admiral Yara stood on the bridge. She looked down at the planet, her face unreadable. Around her, officers spoke softly, tracking the aftermath. Reports came in, the alien fleet destroyed, survivors fleeing into the void. The battle was over, but for Yara this was not just a rescue. It was a message. She turned to her communications officer. "Open a channel," she ordered. Not just to Earth, to every system, every relay. Every listening post across the stars. The officer hesitated. "Admiral, you want the entire galaxy to hear?" Her eyes narrowed. "Yes, let them hear." Moments later, her voice carried across the void. It reached not only human colonies, but alien outposts, neutral stations, and even the strongholds of enemies. "This is Admiral Yara of Earth. To those who attacked our colony, know this. One cry for help was enough to awaken all of humanity. We will never ignore a voice in need. We will never leave our people to die. If you strike at one human, you will face us all. And when we rise, we bring fire. Remember that." Her words spread faster than light. Across the galaxy, leaders and warlords listened. Some sneered, some trembled, and some began to whisper in fear. On distant planets, alien soldiers asked their commanders, "Is it true? Did humanity move for just one call?" The answer was yes. On neutral worlds, traders shook their heads. They are not like the others. They will not sit in silence. They are dangerous, and in the hidden councils of alien empires, voices grew uneasy. If this is what they do for one colony, what will they do for a war? Back on EOS 9, the survivors wept with relief. They did not feel abandoned anymore. They felt part of something vast and unbreakable. Kyle stood among them, staring up at the human soldiers. He knew his message had reached Earth, but he did not know it had changed the galaxy. He was just a man who pressed a button, repeating the same plea again and again. Yet that plea had awakened a storm. A child tugged on his sleeve and whispered, "Did you save us?" Kyle shook his head slowly. "No," he said. "Humanity saved us. The fleet prepared to leave, their work done. But the shadow they left behind was heavier than any wreckage. The galaxy now carried a new truth. Earth was not to be tested. Admiral Yara's final words echoed long after her transmission ended. One cry is all it takes. Humanity will answer, and when we do, the stars themselves will burn. The people of Eos 9 would rebuild. The ashes would become new homes, new fields, new lives. But they would never forget the night the sky turned into fire, and the galaxy, watching in silence, would never forget either. The message was clear: humanity was here. Humanity was united, and humanity would never be ignored again.